All right, good evening. We are down one, so it's not 5 live coding school, it's 4 live. Jonas, I'm sorry you're not here. You will probably be watching this video, within the day, and you're here in spirit with us. So, all right, so this is an exciting night tonight. Here's the basic agenda of what we're going to do. Is we're going to cover some fundamentals of the web and how it works. And then on our local machines, we're going to start building some actual web pages. We're not going to go super deep into that. My main intent is to clear up key terminology in the area, have you demonstrate to yourself on your own machine your understanding of how the parts work. And then I'm going to turn you loose into one of the most effective free training resources for learning these technologies that I've found. This is one particular area where there's no need for me to reinvent the wheel. There's some really, really good resources out there. But what I'm going to do is prepare you to study those extremely effectively by laying in the foundations of the area. So we're not going to waste too much time. We're really just going to get right into a couple key terms, and then I'm going to share my screen and you guys are going to follow along and start building stuff on your machines. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and don't follow along with this coding yet. You don't need to, but I'm going to use a code editor just to kind of show what I'm doing here in finding some of these terms. All right, so here I am, and just because I want it to look pretty, I'm writing a text document, but I'm going to go down to the bottom of Visual Studio Code here, and I'm going to select HTML, and I'm going to start covering some key terms here. The first one is, in fact, hypertext markup language, HTML. Can anyone tell me what HTML is?
What do you mean, like what it stands for?
No, like what is it? Like
just text that's formatted in a particular way.
Good, excellent. So let's actually open up another. So HTML is text. I like what Jason said there. Formatted in a particular way. That's perfect. Okay, now let's start looking at some other terms. What is markup? It's a noun, not a verb. What is markup?
Is it a blueprint?
Is it what?
A blueprint?
A blueprint? No. Now, when you say a blueprint, do you mean like a template from which you can construct other things?
Yeah, plan.
No, it isn't. I like that. And there are other things in technology that are exactly that. Generally, they're called templates, and we'll cover those. The noun markup has a very precise definition, and I've found that it's best understood if you know where it comes from in history. What markup is instructions to modify the appearance or style of text. So it is, in fact, absolutely a noun. It's not a verb. But it does come from a verb. Here's why. So let's go back on a journey. In America, there's a cartoon from a long time ago where there's a thing called the Wayback Machine. We're going to go on the Wayback Machine. It's a time traveling thing, so you go back in time. We're going to go to the 16th century when we first started, at least in the European world, to develop printing presses. Now, let's say you were a writer and you wanted something printed. You would write it out by hand with ink on paper. And then you would go to a printer and you'd say, I want this printed. And what he would do is he'd sit down with you and he would say, okay, good. Now we're going to go through this thing. And what I need from you is some ideas from you on how we're going to format this content. They wouldn't advise you on what the content was. They didn't care. Their job was to produce a printed document. And they needed data from you on how to style that document. So they would take your literal physical piece of paper. And what they would do is they would take a writing implement that was not the same color as what you drew in. People drew in black ink almost universally because ink was taken from live animals, generally squid. Yes, I'm a history nerd. And the ink was black, maybe dark purple. They would take a writing implement. Generally, it was blue. It would be like chalk or some other element that was blue. And they would literally, on your paper that you brought in, you spent all that time writing on, they would start to make notes for themselves about how to format the actual physical pieces of lead type, these little teeny lead blocks that will eventually end up making your printed document. They would literally mark up your document with little notes to themselves. That's the origin of the term markup. So markup is the actual notes, and marking up was the verb of what they did. Well, we don't do marking up anymore. We're not going to take paper documents and mark on them all the time. We are, however, going to produce those precise, exact instructions like they were doing. And we're going to put them right alongside the actual text. And if we format them the right way, then a computer program can look at them and interpret them as instructions on what to do with the text. That's what markup is. There are lots of languages in the computer industry that are used to do this concept. In the more abstract, markup languages are a syntax for providing instructions or what's called metadata. Metadata is data about data. Here's an example. Let's say you have a file on your machine and it is called recipe.txt. Inside it is, 1 cup sugar, blah, 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 blah. That's the text. This right here is your data. That's the actual data that you want to impart. Metadata is, for example, the name of the file. That's not the data. You're not going to use the name of the file when you're making this recipe. .txt is metadata about the file itself. It's not even metadata about the data. This is metadata about this file. It tells what format the data inside the file takes. So you have data about data, and you can have data about that data about data. It can get very, very, very like nested, like that Inception movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. So when we looked at specifically hypertext markup language, you have the data. This is the text. You have metadata. This is instructions about how to present the text. Now, these core fundamental definitions and concepts are key to really mastering this subject, or any subject in technology, really. You need to know what these terms mean, why they mean what they mean, where they came from, so that every time you encounter them, all the associated terminology around it can fit into your understanding of the fundamentals. So here's an example. We have a word, we have a phrase here. The cat went on the table and I was upset. There we go. That's text. Now, let's say I wrote that down and I'm back in 1530 or whatever, and I'm at the printer and I'm like, okay, I want this word table. I really want to call emphasis to that because I want to tell the reader, I cannot believe that the cat went up on the table. I'm so upset about this. Can you make it so that word right there is in italics? And the printer would go, oh yeah, let me make a little note about that. How do we do that now? We do it like this. Like that. Now I'm going to take this text and just to make it easier to understand, I'm going to put it over here. And I get some syntax highlighting, but it's still text. Now, I'm sure everybody in this class already has done stuff like this. You've all worked with HTML a little bit, am I right? Okay.
Yeah.
So the terminology here is critical. Let's just take this one little piece right here. I'm going to pull it down right here all by itself. And we're going to break down what the individual parts are called. These are called tags. More precisely, why am I capitalizing that? I need help. Oh, because I have caps lock on. This is an opening tag. This is a closing tag. You may find other terms for this. Start tag, end tag. This is our content, the word table. So tags plus content is a special term for that. What is that term? Anybody know?
Would it be element?
Yes. An element on the page has both of those things. So we've got 3 key terms that you're going to encounter all the time. And unfortunately, it's 5. And the content is the content. Every once in a while, people call it the text. But they don't usually call it text because the fact is, we can put these tags on either side of things besides text. So a more general term is, it's the content. It's the thing that's in between our tags. It's bookended. One at the beginning, one at the end. So you'll see these terms. You'll see opening tag or start tag. You'll see closing tag or end tag. And you'll see content or text. Finally, you'll see the word element all the time. Now, what's super important is to recognize that every single one of these terms is referring to things that are in a text document. It's just text. There's nothing special or magical about it at all. It's literally just text. Any questions so far? Okay. Some tags can be self-closing. This would be one. That means break, means skip down to the next line. Can someone tell me why this tag doesn't need an opening tag and a closing tag?
All it needs to do is just the one thing and can't do anything else really. I don't know.
True. But doesn't italicize just need to do one thing? It's just got to make some content italic.
It needs to know when to stop.
Ah, why does it need to know when to stop?
So it doesn't italicize everything.
Okay. More precisely, it's because it acts on content. This element doesn't act on any content. You are absolutely right, Jason. It's the terminology I want you to get used to, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Does that make sense? Yeah. Like
Yep.
opening and closing, you need an opening and closing simply because you're setting the boundary of what content are you going to operate on. When a tag provides an instruction that doesn't need any content, well, then it doesn't need a closing tag. So you can actually reason out whether or not you need a closing tag. Am I doing something to content? Yes, I need a closing tag. No, don't need one. It can be self-closing. So right here, we have most of the terminology we're going to need. Now, there's one more that I want to go into because it's key to what this HTML is all about. What's the H for? Oh, I killed it. I meant to. What is that H for? What does that stand for?
Hypertext.
Good. What does hyper mean besides the usual condition of a toddler? Or a kitten, because we're dealing with kittens right now, and hyper doesn't even begin to describe the state of these kittens. What does hyper mean?
Does that mean that's a upper level?
Say it again.
Upper level?
I'm still not getting it.
Upper, like UPPER.
Yes. But it also means beyond. So it means beyond something. It also means outside of something. It can mean senior to. All of these meanings are wrapped up in it. Here, it specifically means beyond. So hypertext means beyond text. Well, that's weird. What does that mean? What is beyond text? Anybody got any ideas?
I don't know. Something you can interact with. I don't know.
True, true. Let's narrow down a little bit because you do interact with it. It is text that points to or references text beyond itself. That's what it means. Also, reference text beyond the location of the text. Oh, I hate when it does that. This is where hyper comes in. Hyper specifically means some text that points beyond itself. Now, let's get a little more precise. If you have a file, a document, because what did we say the actual definition of the web is? From yesterday, what's the web?
A collection of documents.
Close. There it is. a collection of linked electronic documents. That's what the web is. So let's look at the document, and in it is a bunch of text, and then this one bit of text, I'm going to make it capital. There it is. There's some special text. What's special about it? Well, it points elsewhere. It points somewhere beyond itself. There's only two places it can point. In the current document, or to another document. That's it. So it points. Make sense? So when we talk about a hypertext markup language, there's two concepts in there. There's the markup piece that we've covered in some detail right here. The markup will be instructions about modifying the appearance or the style of the text. That's separate conceptually from the idea of hypertext. Hypertext is a whole different thing. What we're saying is that some of this text that we're going to mark up is unique in that it points to or references text beyond itself. And that text can be in the current document or it can be in another document. Those are the fundamentals of the web. That's all there is to the basics. Now, there's a tremendous amount of complexity that gets added on, but you can always fall back to these key things. In an HTML file, you will put in a bunch of content and you will provide instructions to modify the appearance of that content. That's your markup. In almost every single case, some of that text content will also be hypertext. It will point beyond itself. But they're two separate concepts. Questions so far? Okay, so because of that, we're going to break down a very special type of tag and look at how you build elements with it. It's an anchor tag. That's what A means. Now, if you're going to make some text point to other text, you need two things. You need where do we start and what are we pointing to? The where do we start? This is an anchor. The where do we point to? This is called a reference. Any questions so far? All right, so let's grab an example of one of these. There's lots and lots of other elements, lots of different types of tags. I'm not going to dive into detailed explanations of those because frankly, they're pretty straightforward and there's great materials on them. This one thing is something that kicks people's butts at first, so I want to break it down. Let's look at this example. So I said the anchor is where do we start? We start with the text that the anchor tag encloses? What is the text here that the anchor tag is enclosing?
Visit w3schools.com.
What's the exact text? What does it say precisely?
I don't know. I just see the visit w3schools.com. Or do you mean like the link?
I'll show you. Here, watch this. I'm going to kill this part. So we're going to break down the gradient here. All we've defined right here is what's called an anchor. Remember, the anchor is where do we start? More precisely, if we have some special text that points elsewhere, the anchor is the special text. The special text here is the words visit w3schools.com. That is an anchor. It is a permanent thing on our page that we will eventually point somewhere else. With the way line 43 looks, we have not pointed it anywhere. There's a two-step process here. First, define the actual text or other content on your page, which will, when you're done with it, point somewhere. That's what we have on the screen right now. We have an element. It's called an anchor element. It's utterly not useful because it doesn't point anywhere yet, but it is in fact an element. What's an element? Tags plus content. We have an element. Here's a tag. It's an opening anchor tag and a closing anchor tag. And it surrounds some content. That's an element. It's utterly unfunctional, but I'm writing it this way to help reinforce the basic principles of hypertext. Any questions so far? Okay, now, we said we need to point elsewhere, though. The way you do that is by adding in one final term. An attribute. Just in English, what does attribute mean? Somebody can look it up if they need to. What does attribute mean?
A quality, a character. Ascribed to someone or something.
Perfect. Now, here's something cool. A tag can have attributes. A tag can have a character or quality to it. Well, that's kind of neat. It can be special. Well, we're going to make the tag, the anchor tag, special. What we're going to do is we're going to go inside the tag. Watch where I put my cursor. Right here, after the A, but before the greater than symbol, I'm now inside the opening tag. And this is where you set attributes for the tag. You set quality or character of the tag. The specific quality I'm going to add to this tag is it will contain a reference or a pointer to some other content somewhere. So there are lots of attributes I can add. This one is going to be a hyperlink reference to some other text. Hyperlink reference. What is it equal to? This website over here. We're pointing to this entire website right here. Now, I could get very precise and I could point to page 3 on that website. And I can even point to a specific section of that page that is section 2. You can get into those details later. The important part is terminology. On my tag called an anchor tag, I've added an attribute to it, a quality or character. I've modified its quality or character in some way. Precisely what I've done is I have changed its quality or character so that this tag includes a pointer to another HTML source, another source of documents. Any questions? So the exact terminology here. What is the first A called? What's the name of that type of thing?
Opening tag.
So what's that?
Opening tag.
Good. Opening tag. Absolutely. Also called the starting tag. Good. What is this highlighted portion? href equals, and then a website. What kind of thing is that?
The attribute
Good. It's an attribute of what?
of the anchor tag.
Exactly. Of our anchor tag, of our opening tag. Good. Now let me put the content in here. I kind of did this in a different place. What is this portion in between this greater than symbol and this less than symbol? What is that portion called?
It's the content within the document.
Good, excellent. And then what's this symbol here?
Closing tag.
Closing tag.
Good. Now, what's the whole thing called?
Element.
An element. Good. Now, when you see them written about or spoken about, you can say element and you'll say what type of element. This is an anchor element, also called a hyperlink element or a link element. But now you'll know that when they say element, they mean the whole thing. When they say attribute, they mean some modification to the tag. When they say content, they mean what's in between the tags. All of these words matter tremendously because when you start studying this material, they're going to throw those terms around with wild abandon, and they mean exactly what they mean and nothing else. And I've chosen material for you to go through that is very accurate in how it uses the terminology. But one warning is that a lot of materials you might look at out there aren't as disciplined about it. They might use the word tag and they mean the whole thing, the whole element, including the content in it. They might say, we need to add an href attribute to the content. Well, you're not adding anything to the content at all. You're adding an attribute to the tag itself because the tag is where the instructions are. This stuff here, this content, it's inert. It doesn't do nothing. It just sits there. So this terminology matters. Any questions so far? Okay, good. All right, now let's start building some of these things. I am going to start over from scratch and I want all of you to follow along with what we're doing, okay? So I'm going to, everybody spin up Visual Studio Code. Does anybody not have Visual Studio Code installed? Okay, good.
I haven't.
You do, Sudesh?
I haven't.
Oh,
Visual
okay.
Studio.
Here, go ahead and Google Visual Studio Code download. I'll do it as well. Or sorry, VS Code download. This is the page that you'll get right here. You're on a Windows machine or a Mac?
Windows.
Okay, just download this big one right here. You see my screen?
Yeah.
Good. Download that and install it. It'll take about a minute or less. Let me know when you're done. Totally safe to install this. I'm kidding. It is safe. I'm gonna get myself some water while you guys are while you're downloading and installing that. All right, I'm back, Sudesh. How you doing on that?
Just installing.
Okay, good. Excellent. All right. Now, I feel the need to clarify something because I had a huge misunderstanding with my boss once a few months ago. I'm drinking some sparkling water. It's a brand called Aha. What I didn't know is there's an alcoholic version of this. Had no idea. So here I am in the middle of the day and I'm drinking one of these in the middle of a meeting with him. And he just kind of looks at me. I said, Eric, what are you drinking? I'm like, I'm drinking Aha. He says, a little bit early in the day to be drinking that, isn't it? Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So this is not alcoholic. Yeah, for a minute it was pretty embarrassing. All right, so go ahead and start up Visual Studio Code. Everybody go to the file menu and let's make a folder to do our work in. It's important to put this in a folder that you don't have anything else in. So go to open folder. If you're on a Mac, it's just open, I believe. And you have to make a folder. And go wherever you want to do this. Probably your documents folder is good because it's the same on Mac and Windows. And just make yourself a folder. New folder. And just call it first web page. See at the bottom there, first web page. And open that folder. The bottom, I have select folder right here. Your UI might be a little bit different on a Mac, but open up the folder. And you're opening it up in Visual Studio Code. All right. Now, we're just going to make a web page. And again, I know a lot of you have already done something like this, and I'm not wanting to pull you backwards in your training at all. I just want to reinforce a couple of the fundamentals so that when I launch you into some self-study you're going to do this week, that you're not lost in any of it. So this is all about the fundamentals. So go to File and then say New File and make a file called index. Oh, it didn't actually name it. Why didn't it name it? I have no idea why I didn't name the file. Oh, Control S for save. All right, name it index.html. You see it at the bottom of my screen, index.html. Give it that name. Now, if I ever go past what you're doing and you need more time, this is your class. You stop me and say, hey, Eric, I need to catch up, or something's not right. Let me know. There's no need for any of you to get left behind at all. Now, the first thing I want to show you is the experience of writing these documents that isn't all pretty and nice and helpful. So I actually want you to do something. For right now, I want you to close this file, index.html. Just close it in the browser, in your VS Code. And now I want you to open it up using the most scaled down text editor you have. If you're on Windows, literally open it in Notepad. If you're on a Mac machine, I believe it's called Text Edit. Who here is on a Mac?
I am.
Okay. One thing to look for, Ellen, when you open it up, that text edit program sometimes opens up documents in a format called RTF, or rich text format, and it totally screws up your ability to edit your HTML. So when you open it up, if you get any weird behavior in what you're trying to do, tell me immediately, and you can share your screen and I'll help straighten it out. But for now, I want you all to open up either text edit or Notepad, not Notepad++, literally Notepad, the simplest editor you have. Go to the file menu, open, and then find the document. What did I put this in? First web page? Yeah, first web page is the folder. And you might have to switch down here to view all files, or you won't even see it because it's expecting a .txt file. There it is. I'm going to open this file. I'm going to wait until everybody's got this fully empty file. It's totally empty. Open in their most scaled down text editor. Anybody need more time?
I'm good.
Okay, now I want to show you a couple of interesting things. Let's type a little bit of content in here. This is the content. That's all. Just type that in. Make sure you save your document. I just hit Control Save. In fact, let me start this thing, Karnak. All right, does everybody see that thing at the bottom left of my screen that says Control+S?
Mhm.
Good. I installed this little utility called Karnak that will show you my keystrokes. And so if I do something that doesn't produce a change on the screen, you can at least see what I typed. All right, now, here's something really interesting. This will actually render as a web page. Now, before we do this, I want to remind you of a couple of fundamentals that we discussed right at the end of the day yesterday. Because we're about to do something on our computers that isn't normally done there. When you go to a browser on your computer and you want to retrieve a web page and show it on your screen, where is that web page file typically?
It's on a
Server.
server somewhere.
Yeah, it's on a server somewhere. It's on a web server. Now, yeah, everything Eric's been harping about is true. It's just a text file, but it's not on your computer. That's the whole point. The web, it operates on a client server basis. Somewhere is a server with the with the file on it that you need. It might be called index.html. I like to use the example corgis.html because corgis are so cute. They're just cute doggies. It doesn't matter. That file is somewhere else. It's not on your computer. Now, what we're about to do is we're going to cheat. We're really going to cheat. We're going to point our browser at a perfectly valid HTML file that isn't on some other computer somewhere. We don't have to send a request for that file out over the internet to a distant server, which will then, if it exists, retrieve that file and send it back to your browser, and your browser will then read through it and make a display. We don't have to do that. Browsers can access local files. Well, this file is local. It's right on your computer right now. So I'm telling you all this because when you view this in a browser, which you're about to do, it's not going to seem very miraculous at all. But some cool stuff is happening under the hood. So you made this change. Make sure you hit Control S and you saved it. And now go back to whatever file explorer or finder you were using. Find that document. And typically, if you right click on it, you can open it with a specific program. Go down to Open With and pick your browser of choice. I'm going to say Chrome. When you click on this final thing, the program, Chrome will issue a request for this file. Click. And now here it is. I'll pull it over onto my screen. And again, this is not complex. I'm not trying to do anything fancy. I'm trying to make a point. Did anybody not get this result?
It's all good.
Okay, good. All right, now I want to show you the difference here. If I pull over another tab for something that's on a website accessed via the internet, notice right here, I have a lock symbol indicating I'm accessing a secure website. Here, I have a word, file. The browser is even telling me, hey, listen, I'm rendering a web page, but I got it from your local file system. Just so you know at a glance what's going on. Now, let's again examine some of the magic here. Your browser, called Chrome, reached out and accessed a specific file. It pulled in that file, all of its contents. I know there's not very much content. And then it read through the contents. It didn't take very long. There's not much content. And using the instructions in that text file, it created a display. Well, there aren't any instructions. All there is content. I want to show you something. I want everybody to access developer tools in their Chrome. Typically, you can right click and go down to Inspect. And now you get to see a bunch of stuff. Now, I'm not going to look at elements yet. I want you to look over here at sources. This is where it lists all of the sources it retrieved from outside of itself. This is all the places that the browser retrieved information that it's using. Now, there's only one. It went to the local file system, specifically went to this exact path, and specifically pulled up this exact text file. And over here is what's in that file. So what's at work here is what's called the Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Now, I'm not going to dive into it because we're kind of cheating. We're not going to a distant computer. We're not even going to a web server. So we'll get into that part later. But that's all really happening is our browser is saying, hey, somewhere outside of me, outside of the browser, exists a text file that's .html. Give me that. Okay, good. I've got that. Thank you. It's here. You can look at it in my sources tab. Now let me read through that and use it to create a rendering on the screen. The thing I want to show you is we've provided no special instructions. There are no tags here. All there is content, and yet the browser can render it. Now we're going to lay on little bits of complexity. Everybody go back to Visual Studio or go back to your Notepad++. or sorry, your notepad, your simple editor. And now let's change this a little bit. Let's go over here to content. And we're going to type in EM, it stands for emphasize or emphasis, right before the word content, and /EM afterwards. I'll leave it on the screen for a second. Now, again, key terminology. What is this part called that I'm highlighting?
Opening tag.
Good. What is this part called that I'm highlighting?
Closing tag.
Good. What's this part called? Oh, that I've highlighted.
Content.
Yeah, I know, even though it's the word content. Good. And all of it together, what's this called?
The element.
It's an element. Good. Excellent. All right. So make sure you hit Control S to save it. Go back to your browser. Don't do anything till I tell you to. Now I'm about to tell you, don't do it yet, to click on this little button here that says reload this page, the little circle. What happens when you click that button?
It should update the page with the changes we made.
Why? How does it do it?
I guess it's fetching again the file we have.
Bingo. Ellen, you're exactly right. It's fetching the file again. It's retrieving the file. It issues a request. And if the file is there, it'll retrieve it. So click on that. And look what happens. Now it's in italics. Did anybody not get that result?
I don't.
Okay,
I
good.
have the tags showing up.
Good. Go ahead and share your screen. Let me look.
How do I do that? Share screen. And this one, I guess. Do you
Now we're
see
going to
something?
spend, not yet. Oh, wait. Yeah, it's coming up. Before we dive into this, I want to say something real quick. Okay. We are all going to be working together over a long period with lots of people coding and coding on screen, and we're all trying a lot of things. I want to caution you to don't ever for a second feel any slightest degree of embarrassment or anything if it doesn't work the right way, or if you're not sure about something. It's utterly and completely okay. All right, now, this is the index.html. First of all, click. You've got the cursor inside there. Go ahead and hit Command S and make sure that it saves again. Okay, now go back and hit refresh, see if that did it.
Nope.
Okay, now what you're seeing is the actual words, right? Like you're seeing the whole, okay, good. Now go back and to text edit. And then up in the very top of your screen, click on format for a second. Click on make plain text. Good, now hit save, Control S. Okay, now, one thing that's happened is when you made it plain text, it changed your file format. This is just a peculiarity of this particular file editor. So what you should do is close text edit for a moment, find that file. Go close text
Close
editor.
this one?
Yeah, go close
Yeah,
that.
okay.
Yep. Find that, and I think you can right click it and rename it. Is that right? Yeah, rename is down there. It's about 5 down.
Okay.
And then make it .html. It might try to encourage you not to do that. So yes, please.
Okay.
Good. Now right click on it. Oh, you've already got it open. Never mind. You've got it open. Yeah, you were doing the right thing. Go and click refresh. Okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, you did absolutely nothing wrong. It was this weirdness that I've seen with that specific built-in editor. it just defaults to rich text format. I don't know why, and I don't like it.
So,
Yeah, I think it might have done it already again.
yeah, because
It's all right. We're going to get out of this. What I'm trying to show you is that you can literally just create your HTML files in a plain editor without the nice benefit of syntax highlighting. And it's just text. There's nothing magic about it. Unless you are the text edit program from Apple, which doesn't let you edit text. It lets you edit rich text. Why? I don't know. Okay, good. Go ahead and stop sharing. We're going to go away from that and we'll be able to, we won't have the experience anymore. Thank you so much, Ellen. Okay, let me share my screen. And we're going to take a break here in a minute because I promised breaks at regular intervals. Okay, so we're going to do our first, actually, we're going to go back to Visual Studio Code. I don't do this anymore. So make sure that you close either Notepad or TextEdit, whatever you're using. And then go back to VS Code. And then open up index.html again, like I have. All right, now let's actually put some markup in here. The first markup you put in is, and you can see it defaults to it. You put in what's called a Doctype. This is all part of the specification for this language we're using called hypertext markup language. You can have different doc types. We're not even going to research that. It's way beyond what you need to know right now. But if you do Doctype HTML, well, now everything that follows is HTML. It was already being treated that way by the browser, but we're being very precise. Now, inside here is where we're going to put all of our HTML. I'm going to move my text inside there. Go ahead and make sure yours is like mine. And by the way, one thing I highly recommend in Visual Studio Code is to go up here to the file menu and go down until you find autosave and make sure it's checked. It'll save your file after every single keystroke. Because I find it so frustrating when your change isn't showing up, and it's because you didn't save your document. So I just always set it to autosave. So this should work just fine. Now, we can verify it by going back to our browser and hitting refresh. And it should be just the same. If you run into an error, let me know. But now notice that over here in the sources tab, when we look at the file that was retrieved, this has all of our nice little changes we made. And we've added a little bit of complexity. All right. So we're going to take a break here. When we get back, I'm going to introduce you to the self-study thing I'm going to have you work on throughout the week. Okay. Answer any questions about it, and then probably just turn you loose to learn this stuff. Actually, no, I want to add in one thing. I want to add a little bit of a explanation around cascading style sheets. Okay, good. All right. Anybody have any questions before we take a quick break?
Nope.
All right.
Nope.
My egg timer. There we are. Oh, this is not the one I wanted. Why does it do this? I do not understand. There it is. That's the one I want. Okay, I'll see you all in 10. All right, welcome back. Okay. All right, everybody here? What are we looking at here? Okay, good. Okay. Okay, so let me show you what I'm going to have you work through. Okay, we're not going to get into style sheets or anything like that right now. We're just going to concentrate on the markup language itself. So there's a lot of resources out there that you can go through, right? And first of all, I just want to address my decision not to teach you all of this bit by bit by bit. This is such a fundamental that has been solved over and over and over again. And there's some really, really good training materials out there. And frankly, probably take longer if I did it. So what I'm going to have you do is this, because I love them. This is from Free Code Camp. Who has seen this particular course before? Anybody? Good, Sudesh. Have you worked through this entire course?
Not entire course. I started, yes.
Okay, good. I want you to get through one particular portion of it before our next class. This is for everybody if you can. I think it should be real. It is this specific course right here, okay? There are two different versions of HTML that are in popular use nowadays. I want to just explain a little bit of something. There's an organization in the world that's responsible for making the specification for this language. So you can actually go to HTML RFC, that means request for comment. And here is this internet something task force. It's so funny. They don't explain what it stands for. What does IETF stand for? In an engineering task force. Now, this is an extremely boring, dry, like really dry document. It's not super dry. Okay, but it's pretty nerdy. Couple things about here. This is version 2 of the language, 1995. First version was 1989, and Tim Berners-Lee is widely credited with the guy who came up with this whole thing. Okay, version 2 from 95. The versions we care about are 4 and 5. It's supposed to be a 4 there. So here is specification for 4. You can read all about this, literally like every single nerdy document or every single nerdy detail, I mean, about exactly how texts work and lists and tables and links and objects and all of it's in here, okay? It's not very friendly, but it's all there. Here's the point I want to make. While there is a specification, no one enforces it. What I mean is, and this is a really important point about all of web development, the technologies that you use for web development are principally HTML, CSS, cascading style sheets, and JavaScript. Each of those has a technical specification for what it should look like when it's implemented. But the creators of the different browser programs are free to do what they want. They're the ones creating the programs. So this is Chrome, created by Google. And there's Edge and Internet Explorer from Microsoft, and there's Opera, and there's Brave, and there's Safari, and there's like all kinds of browsers out there. Every single one of them is programmed to more or less implement the specification for HTML, to implement the specification for CSS, and to implement the specification for JavaScript. But opinion gets in there, preferences get in there. Why does this matter to you? Well, there's this concept of writing quote unquote standards compliant HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Writing those languages to align with the standard or the specification. you still don't have a guarantee that every browser will implement them the same way. And so part of what you need to become skilled at as a developer over time is finding out and looking for differences between the different browsers, having an awareness that not all browsers will act the same, and making sure that when you create a user interface, you test it on the various browsers, looking for odd variations. Now, the good news is that web development is probably the most popular development activity in the world, and there's a tremendous number of resources out there. So when you find something where you're like, it looks great on every single browser except for Safari, you will find lots of resources on why Safari is different and exactly what to do to make it so it works right just for Safari. I just want to orient you to this. When you see here that it says HTML, what they mean is HTML4. That was the one that came out in about 1999 and was super popular for a long time. HTML5 came out a few years later and has less broad usage. What that means is two things. One, not every single browser has fully implemented what the people that designed this version put in there. And two, it's just not in as common use out in the marketplace, but it is functionally much more powerful than version 4, and you should learn it. And this covers both. So that's just some orientation to what you're about to do. When you look at this, all I want you to do is this first course, which is HTML, not to go past it into CSS. We'll cover that next week. And you're literally just one piece at a time going through and building out all of the common things that HTML does. Some of you may have already done this before, but particularly for web development, you can't reinforce these things enough. So that is, in fact, your homework for all week, is to get through this. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay. If you don't already have an account with them, it's free. You just register. Takes no time at all. All right. I don't have anything else to add tonight. I want you to just dive into this. Okay. So I'm going to stay on right now, though. So I want everybody to at least sign up and get started. And we'll stay on for a few minutes to make sure everybody's actually up and running and able to start with at least the first exercise and there aren't any problems. I'm not going to turn you loose without knowing for sure that you can progress through the week. So why don't you all sign up for that and then let me know when you're in and you've actually been able to do the first little bit here.
Hey, Eric, so I'm in mine. You can redo these if you've completed them, right? I've got like 23 out of 28 of these.
Yes.
Of
Yeah.
this one done, but I can go through and redo them, right?
You can redo it, is my understanding.
Yeah.
But go ahead and share your screen. I want to see you try. I want to make sure there's no problem.
Yeah, it's let me do it. Yeah, hang on.
Oh,
Let
it
me
is?
figure out how to do that. Yeah.
I'm interested in seeing what the UI looks like when you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Where's the thing to share my screen? I swear I work in tech.
Don't worry. Like Zoom is notorious for this. Make sure that you've selected the Zoom program down at the bottom of your taskbar.
Yeah, it's grayed
And-
out. Why is that?
And you got to roll over the bar at the bottom of your screen. It might not appear until you roll the cursor down towards the bottom of your screen.
Okay.
Did it show up?
I'll see share screen, but
What happens when you click on it?
nothing. It's grayed out.
Oh.
I'm looking at the other window here. Hang on
Hold
a
on,
second.
hold on. Oh no, I said.
Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong window. I'm looking
Oh,
at
good,
the
okay.
other window.
Yeah, I can figure this so anybody can share.
So right here, I think this is it. Can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, so this is my thing. I've got
Okay, good.
23
So it
to
shows
28 here
checked.
done.
All right, good.
But yeah, I can start right here with say hello to HTML and
Okay, good. So it doesn't stop you.
just pick right up. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, now it's really important here. Read all of the text on the left. Don't just spot the things that like, oh, I'm supposed to do blah, blah, blah. When you're going through this, actually read it. What this is substituting for is me going through every single one of these. And I'm willing to do this because of how much this is stuff there's just so many resources for it, but you have to use them. You have to read the text. Sometimes it's boring. Sometimes there's really valuable information in there. All right, so you're up and running. Ellen, were you able to get yours going?
Yep, I'm good.
Okay, Alexandra,
Yeah, I'm good too.
good. And Sudesh?
Yes.
Good, excellent. All right, then I'm going to turn you loose to go through this. Okay, now a couple of things about this. One, I've got pretty good availability for most of this week. If you need anything, throw something onto the Discord channel. I can hop onto a private Zoom call with you, go through anything you need to. Two, if you rip through this and it goes really, really well, let me know privately in Discord. I'll be able to move you forward to study some stuff that's a little more advanced. And three, if you run into major problems and you're like, I'm just not getting this, instantly tell me. I want to know right away if you run into something weird. Okay, because I'm turning you loose to go through this, but it doesn't mean I'm not 100% responsible for you guys doing well. Any questions?
Do you want us to take like a screenshot when we're done, or how do you
No,
want us to let
just
us
tell me
know?
you're done.
Okay.
Yeah, totally fine. Just let me know that you got done. Okay, cool. All right, I'm going to turn you loose, and I will see you all. We're doing Monday, Wednesday, starting next week.
Okay, so
I'm going to see you 1 week from today. We'll do Monday,
Okay.
Monday, Wednesday. Okay, but again, throughout the week, I mean, I know we all have busy lives, okay, and you're trying to fit this in with everything else you're doing, but I will pay very close attention to Discord. If you need help on anything, just let me know. All right. Cool, excellent. And from here on out, the actual coding and the practical application is just going to ramp up more and more and more. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited. Hey, cool, excellent. Have a great day. Have a great week, and I will see you all next Monday.
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.